Far in a distant land, a king is being asked what will his next move be. It seems the kingdom has exhausted all its options, so one old-timer suggests that they summon a hero. Consequently, while the clueless MC Soma was checking some books, he was surprised by a magical circle under his feet. It appeared from nowhere and yonked him from his peaceful reality to a new one. Likewise, the mages were surprised by the success of the spell, as it was never tried before, it seems. There was no small talk, like, "Are you okay there?" That seemed like a nasty fall buddy. Instead, they took his ass straight to the king, who thanks him for answering the call, which the main man calls out to be straight BS, as he was technically kidnapped. That said, Soma is the main lead for an isekai show, so you know he will not harbor any ill will. The king explains the history of the world. In this brand new world, humans, elves, dwarves, and demi-humans live on a supercontinent. However, a demon uprising from the north is threatening the existence of those races. Therefore, the biggest empire made a peace treaty between the nations to stop fighting and unite against the demonic north. Soma asks if he was summoned to 1v9 carry those losers against the demons, a task he knows he's not qualified for. The older timer confirms he wasn't summoned to fight, but to be handed to the empire for financial aid. You see, the kingdom is currently broke and can't contribute jack shit in terms of war efforts, so a hero would cover all the finances. The old-timer continued to explain all willy-nilly, as if the MC is morally obliged to hand himself for the kingdom. I mean, look at his hand gestures. Damn it, I wanted to backhand slap him so much. Thankfully, the MC has a head on his shoulders and fired back. After further analyzing his situation, Soma concludes his next move will shape his path in this world, so he asks some more questions to know what he's working with. Upon learning, he was the only successful summon so far in the kingdom, and the demands of the empire may not be lessened any time in the future. Soma tells them that the only best move here is to improve the financial state of the kingdom. In other words, he just told them, "Get good, lol." After 3 days and 3 nights of auditing the finances of the kingdom, as well as learning about other topics regarding the state, King Albert gave up the crown for the young Soma, much to the latter's shock. Also, he gave his daughter to the newly appointed king as his future wife-to-be. The news reached all corners of the kingdom: the mountains where dragon people reside, the seas where a hot wolf resides, and the deep state where a lion Chad resides. Also, it reached the princess, who rushed to the castle to save her parents as she thought they were forced to step down and were in danger. Instead, she found out they were Bing chilling. Naturally, she was hella mad, especially after learning she was offered to the main man on a whim, but they assured her she could say no whenever she wanted, and then insisted that she should meet her future hubby first. The princess stepped out to see this charming new hero all the people talking about, only to find him sitting between mountains of paperwork, miserable by his lonesome. Upon seeing the door open, Soma assumed it was a helper, so he asked if they could do basic math, to which the princess was offended, yet still she played along and answered all the grade 2 math equations Soma threw her way. Fed up, the princess introduced herself as Elfrieden Lycia, the former crowned princess of the Elfrieden kingdom. Soma eyes her up and down and says, "Yeah, there is something princessy about you," which low-key makes her feel a certain type of way. Both lads were as surprised by the king's decision to give up the throne and wonder about the outcome of this sudden power shift. Soma assures Lycia that he has no interest in holding the throne for long and is planning to hand it back once he fixes the financial problem in the upcoming few years. Lycia is taken aback by his claims, as the problems seem way too complicated to solve in a couple of years span, but the main man tells her not to worry, as he already started moving and solved the first issue with the empire, the one regarding financial/war aid. As pointed out by secondary characters from a foreign land, Soma made the smart move of selling the kingdom's jewels and national treasures to raise the money needed. Lycia freaked out upon learning her fiancé was auctioning the kingdom treasures. Still, he assured her that he just sold the mid-shit and kept the ones with historical and cultural significance within the castle, to be later displayed in a museum. In the following days, one of the mages who summoned the new king approaches him to ask if he's down to take a magical test, i.e., check if Soma has any powers he acquired through the summoning ritual. Intrigued, Soma heads to the summoning chambers and places his hand on a statue's head. Surprise, surprise, it starts to glow and takes the main man to a special place where it shows him his new power. Although startled by the ability's nature at first, Soma manages to find a use for it. Meanwhile, the king is living his best life. Sometimes all that a tired soul needs is a lap to rest on, and a beautiful woman to clean your ears. Relationship goals right there. That said, there is no rest for the wicked, or rather the summoned heroes. As we see, the main man has developed a serious case of black circles under his eyes. Later, Soma and Lycia find themselves standing in front of a beautiful cotton field. The princess was like, "Aw, this looks so pretty," while the king was like, "Yes, but you can't eat pretty." "What the f***?" she said. And Soma explained, "This country suffers from food shortages, and one major reason for it is because it has too many of these fields. Back before the Demon King's army invaded, the country was relying heavily on its cotton industry, but since the borders became stricter and more dangerous to go through, as well as other countries shifting their priorities regarding what they spend on, the kingdom was importing less. Not to mention the sudden drop in prices. Once others were like, F it, we will grow our own shit. The kingdom was doomed." After hearing all that, Lycia was shocked and ashamed of her ignorance towards such a matter, yet the main man told her, "It's okay. After all, leading a kingdom is not easy. My job is to help fix this problem and put you on the right path to flourish after I am gone." He, low-key, mirrored his grandfather with that speech, and it clearly didn't sit well with his queen-to-be. Later, they went to have dinner and talk about their plans. Nothing important to note here, other than this man has no dinner manners.
And I'd like us to make up the deficit with our exports.
Fucking hell, man. Swallow first and then speak. You have 2 seasons, 13 episodes each. You have time to eat. Even the princess was like, "For God's sake, why are we here?" shifting the cam to all the people watching them. A royal knight approached the couple, and the princess introduced him as Sir Ludwin Arx, the captain of the royal guard. In turn, Soma introduced himself as the new king in command, with that kind of look on his face that said, "Don't get ahead of yourself, pretty boy. I am the main character here. My face is on the poster, not yours." He then told him, "Next time your homies feel they have time to talk shit behind my back, then tell them to get the f*** back to work." We might paraphrase a little, but that's what he said. Hero King Soma doesn't play around. Yet, our boy is still a nice down-to-earth guy. He let Ludwin take a seat with them, and answered frankly how work is not going as smoothly as he wishes. Aside from the old-timer who wanted to sell him for the Empire, there are no dependable people in the castle. Only corrupted yes-men that contribute nothing. Therefore, his current objective now is to hire talented and dependable people to help get this kingdom back on its feet. To do so, Soma uses a gem to broadcast a message to the masses, asking those with any skills to step forth and showcase it. Soma will judge if the country can use these skills or not. His opinion is what matters, not the level of education, the looks, or others' perspective regarding the performer, only him. And that's him with a capital H, Soma decides. The next day, Lycia wakes up recalling her hubby's words about leaving and not having anyone or connections in his home world. Lycia wonders if she can become the thing that will anchor him to her world, become his family. Yes, sir, she wants baby trap him. While contemplating her future with Soma, Lycia's maid and friend enter the room to let her know that the talent show is starting soon. Yup, the contestants of Elfrieden's Got Talent have gathered in the castle hall in front of His Majesty. Aisha was the first person to step forth and showcase her talent. She didn't take a knee since the Dark Elves only kneel for their masters. That said, once she shares a problem plaguing her village, and Soma suggests a solution for it, Aisha is taken back by his advice and immediately drops down to his knees, accepting Soma as her lord and savior. She pleads that he visits her village as soon as he can to show the elves how to thin their forest. The next contestant was Juna, by far the hottest chick in the anime, and the main man sure knows so, making Lycia a bit jealous. Unlike Aisha's overwhelming strength, Juna's talent is for singing. Thus, Soma asks her to showcase it to the masses watching the stream. He then pulls out his smartphone and starts taping away. Now, if this was any other show, the mere action of pulling out a smartphone would throw the kingdom into chaos. What in the hell did the king grab? What does it do? Is it a device from the demons? Instead, they accept it as it is, and watch on their king's Riz game. After sharing a song with the busty chick, she agrees to perform it, and she does surprisingly well. Not talking about the actual character, but the VA. She sounded nice. The Japanese one, of course. Moving on, the next person to take the stage was Poncho. The Prime Minister low-key was throwing shade while introducing him, making him sound like just another fat guy who likes to eat. However, Soma was delighted by his aptitude for food, as he was searching for such a connoisseur who tried all types of foods from around the land. In other words, Poncho will be the key to solving some of the food problems, as he will introduce new dishes, ones foreign to the Elfrieden kingdom, yet have their ingredients readily available within the kingdom territory. As such, Soma gives Poncho a special title honoring him and his talents. This unexpected turn of events has pushed others who thought their set of skills to be useless to later apply for the talent show. The following contestant was Hakuya. Unlike the rest present, Hakuya was the only person who was recommended on behalf of someone else. Soma saw some aspects of himself in the young lad, who liked to read and explore all matters of subjects and books. Therefore, Soma saw a job as a librarian would be the perfect fit for Hakuya. Although the latter agreed it would be a very good position for him, Hakuya wanted more. He sought a position as the military strategist for the kingdom. Hakuya explains that initially he was content with a lame-ass job in the library, as he doesn't want his skills to be wasted under a shitty ruler. Yet seeing how His Majesty utilized the skills of others, and how he is working on fixing the country efficiently, Hakuya is certain that Soma is the man to serve under while giving his 100%. And lastly, Tomoe, a wolf demi-human, takes the stage. The Prime Minister starts describing, proudly, I might say, Tomoe's ability to be able to speak with animals. They tested it by taking her to the castle stables where she talked to the horses about their health status. Yet, her talent doesn't end here, as she is hiding a pretty big secret, one that she whispers into Soma's ear, making him gasp in shock. Soma asks if she told anyone about the secret, to which she answers, "No, Your Majesty, just you and my mother." Soma then walks away, trying to stay calm, cool, and collected, not to alert anyone about what he just heard. After that, Soma notes to the old-timer that her talents are truly unique, so he will need more time to decide how to utilize them, and just like that, the first Elfrieden's Got Talent show ends with a great success. Now in a private room, Soma asks his retrains if they heard what Tomoe told him, as he is worried that someone else, a random person, would have caught wind of what she whispered. But the lads confirmed that what she said was far too quiet to pick up. All this secrecy was because Tomoe could communicate with demons as well. You see, up to this point, it was thought that monsters have the same intelligence levels as animals. However, among the Demon Lord's army, some monsters used weapons and hunted in teams using tactics kin to humans and demi-humans. Just to be clear, demi-humans range and are not limited to catgirls, dog boys, and all other types of furries. What distinguishes them from demons is that all races can understand each other via one language, unlike the demons who speak in incomprehensible tongues. Therefore, Tomo being able to talk with one of those demons is a huge discovery. She explains, "The one I talked to had the face of a dog. I was afraid and shouted for help upon seeing him. But then the demon talked to me, surprised we could understand each other. Apparently, he was scouting the area. It told me that we had the same scent, and it wouldn't bear seeing me die. So he told me to flee before it was too late." Soma concludes that even though it was an isolated case, this might be the key to a different course of action while dealing with demons. Understandably, the people present were taken aback by the idea of dealing with the barbarian monsters that they were fighting for God knows when. Not to mention a diplomatic situation when it comes to other nations. Soma analyzes that the nations of mankind are currently joined together under the same cause of defeating the demon army, since they perceive them as mere monsters that cannot be negotiated with. But when they learn there is a way of communication, some nations might leave the peace treaty to ally with the demon lord and conquer other lands. The pretty boy points out that the neighboring country of Elfrieden is the most likely to defect from the peace forces to take the kingdom down. Hence, the safest way to continue on this uncharted territory is to keep little Tomoya's ability a secret, as well as put her under the highest levels of security, i.e., surround Tomoya with royal guards. Since it might draw some suspicions as to why a mere commoner refugee moved from the slumps to the castle with personal knights, the Prime Minister suggested they induct her into the royal family by adopting her. But since Soma is still only at the fiancé stage with Licia, he can't officially adopt. So, the next best suggestion was to marry her.
Your Majesty could take her as your secondary consort.
A consort? Are you insane?
Yeah, the main man is from a world with the FBI in it. He knows. Unlike the old man who casually explains how it's not a big deal and encourages it as being the best path ahead, the main man was like, "No way, Jose." Instead, he suggested that the previous king adopt her since he was still technically in power, to some extent that is. Licia jumped on the idea as she always wanted a little sister. Yet there was still one teeny tiny issue. Tomoya has a family, and she wishes not to be separated. Soma, in return, assures her it wouldn't be a problem, since by taking her in as a part of the royal family, her biological family can join her in the castle. A win-win situation for all parties involved. Moving past this event, we see Soma chilling with Licia in her room. While he sews a doll for future purposes, Licia asks why he still doesn't have his own room in the castle and suggests taking her father's room. A harsh proposal if I say so myself. Soma, though, shuts it down as he finds it more efficient and convenient to sleep in his office since he spends his days and nights in it. And whenever he wants time off, away from the office, the king can just hang out outside or in his chick's room. Again, this is a win-win situation for a main harem lead who is not afraid to take his maidens by the hand and storm out of the room. Now in the castle's kitchen, Soma meets with his trusty food connoisseur after the latter made it back from a long trip with a variety type of ingredients. Later, Pancho and Juna appear on the Gem broadcast to introduce their new cooking show, an idea thought by the king himself to connect with the people and show them that there are all sorts of food they can make for cheap stuff in the market or available in the land. Of course, there were some dishes made in Japanese style and other eccentric stuff like tree roots with what looks like pubic hairs on them. However, the most shocking thing was the slime dish. Seeing Pancho reveal a freshly caught wild slime made the hair on the back of the ladies stand. This was the first time in their lives that they witnessed a well-preserved dead slime. Usually slimes become a puddle of water and goo when cut, but thanks to a bonk technique Pancho learned from a tribe, he can kill the thing and keep its body as is, which in turn becomes harder and harder with time passage. The big man explains, the sweet spot for a slime to be hard but not too hard is 2 hours. In other words, their bodies become like dough that you can cook in a big pot to make a noodle-like dish. Although hesitant to taste the green noodles, Soma, after being put on the spot by his harem, makes a leap of faith and takes the first bite. Turns out, green noodles taste good. In anime, of course. 1 week later, as Soma enjoys his earthly snack, he wonders what they can do for the next cook cast, because the people now want it regularly. That said, there are far more important matters at hand as the old-timer wants to step down from his position and let someone else take over, which I'm sure you guessed is Hakuya. Soma pauses for a second and agrees. The old-timer rejoices and is excited to spend the rest of his life in his private mansion by the lake, cruising on his royal pension. Yet, one single disappointed look from the main man made him change his mind about accepting a well-balanced salary in a new, less demanding position, being a consultant for His Majesty on the ways of the throne. Speaking about being a consultant, Hakuya's first suggestion for the king was to take time off since the people working under him were reaching their limit, and to prevent His Majesty from burning out. Therefore, the best way to spend time off the clock is with his battle maidens. Notice we added battle to maidens this time, because for the first time since he arrived, Soma gets to see how the big girls train, and he is horrified at the thought of them destroying the castle. After calling them to calm the F down, they go to sit around the table and go over the date. Aisha will be tagging along with the lovebirds for protection. Also, they are going out incognito, wearing academy clothes. Personally, I thought the dark elf looked best in her student uniform, but the main man begged the differ. It seems instead of making his vision clearer, the glasses made our boy go blind. Once the trio reached town, they visited many sites and walked all around the place till they became tired and hungry. Thus, the group went to have something to eat at Juna's cafe. Juna went to greet His Majesty as usual, but the latter stopped her and introduced himself as the son of a merchant, and kept going on and on about his fake life. Quite honestly, it was cringe, and I can see the princess feeling the same. But hey, Juna got the message that her king was trying to pull her and played along. Thereafter, the big and busty took the gang to their table where she served them bowls of the green noodles, proving the dish was a success as well as other dishes. After a little bit of chit-chat, the girls call our boy out for acting quote-unquote different when it comes to Juna. In turn, the man, the myth, the fictional character says out loud, "It's not my fault. I can't control it. I get nervous while talking to pretty women." Yep, he just confirmed it. Soma is one of us. That said, this level of reality check will soon be shattered, especially after he learned that taking multiple wives is not only okay, but also encouraged within royal families as it serves for lots of reasons, from preserving the king's bloodline to keeping peace with other nations and races. The hoes within the kingdom are plenty. One must catch 'em all. P.S. There is a limit, and it is 13. A king only gets 13 wives. The old king didn't get any other chicks since originally Lycia's mom was the one in power, as she was the daughter of the previous king. Lycia's father was just another guy within the royal system but with no power. He married into the big league and held the king position that way. Yet, the old king never undermined his queen, and never took a major step without her being on board. Although Soma's situation is somewhat similar to her father's, Lycia vaguely tiptoes around the rules of the kingdom and informs her future-to-be husband he can take on other queens with no issue. Hearing this, Soma asks, "But are you okay with that?" "Truth be told, I'm not that thrilled about it, but I'm willing for there to be up to 8, including myself," Lycia answered, while our boy fantasized. Sadly, the king's fantasies were cut short by the shouting of a fox girl. Lycia tells us that the guy's name is Halbert Magna, the son of the prestige Magna family. He attended the Knight Academy around the same time as Lycia and proved to be a good horseman. However, it seems he is no good when it comes to talking with Miss Foxia, a mage from the Forbidden Army. In case you missed it, the Elfrieden's Kingdom military force is said to be roughly 100,000 strong. The army led by Duke Carmen amounts to 40k. The navy led by Duchess XL Walter is close to 10k. The aerial force led by Duke Castor Vargas is 1k, though each unit is worth 100-foot soldiers. Lastly, there is the Forbidden Army 40k strong. It's composed of the royal guards under the king combined with private armies of noblemen. Soma explains that the conception of such a military structure was due to some concerns from the various races that the humans with their big numbers might stomp over them and their rights. In other words, it's a contingency plan if a king becomes a tyrant. However, as Soma sees, it's a ticking bomb when it comes to decision-making on a state level. With that history class out of the way, time to get back to the cafe. Yup, it seems the kingdom is falling towards civil war, and the fox girl here is trying to convince this airhead that war is bad, and he should follow his father, Lord of House Magna, not the land general, Lord Carmen, who wants to confront the king in the future. She adds, "A civil war in this time would be hella bad. Not only is the kingdom still not that good financially, but also the neighboring kingdom is making some sussy moves at the borders. They are eyeing a city the Elfrieden Kingdom seized 2 kings ago." Hearing this, Soma recalls a geography class he had with his right hand, Hakuya, teaching him about the content geopolitical structure. At the moment, only Amadonia, the neighboring country, is hostile. That said, in the future, the country to the south might also become hostile, as their land freezes during winter. However, if the kingdom doesn't give them an opening, they're unlikely to invade and will instead move to neutral, warmer areas. Hence, Amadonia is the only real threat at hand currently, as they are making rounds between the dukes and noble houses trying to convince them to rise against the new king, believing his right to the throne is not legit, yet no duke accepted the help offers from Amadonia since they are fiercely loyal to country more than they dislike the new king. Anywho's, Soma has had enough of hearing the airhead and the fox girl bicker among themselves, so he heads to talk to them in private. Soma ends up revealing his identity in the most dramatic way possible for the clueless Halbert. The latter turned from a pit bull to a chihuahua. Soma assured him he is not going to take off his head for the way he was considering defecting to the army and possibly going against him. Instead, he explained to the dumb in the most layman way possible that if he goes to the other side, he will be forced to fight against his childhood friend Foxia, and even if he didn't cross swords with her, a guy fighting on his side might do, forcing him in a situation where he has either defect and save her or let her die. Asking Halbert what he truly wants, with that the convo ends. Days after, Halbert and his father arrive at the castle, and oh boy, Papa Magna did not hold back on teaching his son right from wrong. Quite frankly, I don't blame him, considering your son not only is about to betray the king and country but also was talking shit in front of said king, who has the power to end the Magna household bloodline with one word. Yeah, that kid gonna learn today. Thankfully, Soma is not that kind of king. Instead of punishment, he promotes Foxia to staff officer under Ludwin's command. He also transfers Halbert, her bestie, to the Forbidden Army under her directly so they can be together, with that fixing all the problems at hand, except for one that Lord Magna, or rather I call him Lord Drip, for how cool he looks. Magna shared the info with the king in private. On a different note, we see a group of adventurer rookies probably recruiting a new member into their party, which happens to be a bigger version of the doll that Soma was sewing. Apparently this big mascot hero was going around the city knocking quest after quest, till it grew some reputation. A well-earned reputation, as we see the mascot man pulling some killer moves on snakes, bats, and other monsters under the kingdom's streets. The party's objective is to clear these tunnels and open any blocked area they find. A job easier said than done, as their next obstacle comes in the shape of a huge mutated salamander. The big boy has acidic saliva, so fights within close quarters are highly dangerous. And since it is immune to fire spell magic, the only solution at hand is to run. While doing so, the mascot boy trips. A chick from the party throws a flash bomb to distract the big lizard, creating an opening to help her downed comrade, yet it's too heavy and not responding. Suddenly though, when the monster spit almost hits the chick, the mascot protects her with its body and carries her out like a princess, which the low-key makes girl blush. After managing to make it out, the chick cleans her hero and thanks him for saving her. It's important to note that the mascot man cannot talk, and the girl is engaging in a conversation of the mascot's gestures. So yeah, it's safe to say she has fallen for it. It's a shame that she doesn't know behind that cotton-stuffed body lies a king. At night, King Soma gives his mascot suit a good rinsing session. Licia enters the room to find him at the act and realizes all the rumors she was hearing about a mysterious cool mascot adventurer were tied to him and his doll that he was moving using his power to move inanimate objects. Several days later, Soma groups all the men working under him in the office to thank them for their restless work, and all the hardships they had to endure from paper to paper, which you can tell from the dark circles under their eyes and the soulless look on their faces. All that restless work was to push the construction of a new city by the sea. It would serve as a new harbor and hub center for trade. Licia, however, doesn't like the idea as it might undermine the Duchess Excel Walter domain. Soma, though, assures her a conflict with MILF is not what he's looking for. The purpose of the city is to ease goods transportation and people's travels from city to city. In his vision, the roads expanding from that port will be vessels of the kingdom, while the new city itself will be the heart. Not to mention, the faster and more efficient trade roads will decrease the delivery time for items, fixing the supply and demand problem, which in turn will lower the prices of essential goods, like food. In other words, this contribution made by the auditors and other office workers to help come up with a fast plan to construct the city will save the kingdom from its food shortage problem. And with that, your economy class 101 is over. Dismissed. Fast forward, and the construction of the city started. Ludwin informed Soma that all was running smoothly until some old folk in the countryside were opposing their progression. They are afraid if the kingdom makes more buildings near the sea, it will call forth the wrath of an ancient mythical sea monster. Although thinking of it as a humorous tale at first, Soma's demeanor changes fast and asks to see the old man who told Ludwin about the tale as soon as possible. And just like that, the king meets the old man who describes how now and then the sea would rise and destroy everything near their area. Soma asks for the old man to point at the location that usually would flood and heads back to the castle with the map. The fellas conclude the folk living near the sea are using the monster as a metaphor for tsunamis, and the reason the mainland doesn't know about it is that the catastrophe most likely hit 100 years ago, leaving behind only stories that later became myths and legends about the event. With all the info at hand, Soma decided to continue with the city building, but at a different site, just in case a tsunami hit during their lifetime or the ones following. As such, the work starts at the new location, and the ones doing it are the Forbidden Army. Originally, the plan was to hire people from the capital, but because they were still extremely short-handed, the army took on the job as well. Ah, sweet, sweet Hal. 8 episodes in, and I still wonder how you made it to main secondary cast, instead of being a one-time background character. I guess you can't let Foxia eat by her lonesome while she glazes His Majesty's feet so far. Speaking about the devil, Soma arrives at the site along with the princess. Halbert is quick on his feet to welcome the man ruling over the land. It seems the lesson Lord Magna tried to teach his son worked like a charm. Soon we're given a tour of the progress being made. The streets are coming together nicely, and the decorations from lamps that use light moss to glow, to hollow trees brought from the Dark Elves' forest to keep wild animals at bay, are all falling into place. Speaking of the Dark Elves' forest, Aisha receives a message from her father informing her that a massive landslide has occurred, swallowing half of their village. Naturally, the news devastates the busty elf. Seeing her in distress, Soma begins thinking of what to do and asks about the available members of the Forbidden Army to organize a rescue mission. By nightfall, the group arrives at the god-protected forest, where they are welcomed by the village elder, Aisha's father. He explains what happened, where it happened, and how many are dead, 100. The mission at hand is to rescue the survivors buried under the rubble. Initially, I thought a kid living inside a castle would be useless to the digging situation, but I was proved wrong as his power of moving small objects helped in locating people under the rubble. The rescue mission seems to have wrapped up around dawn, just as Princess Lycia arrived with the second relief unit. Her arrival brought a wave of relief and hope to everyone gathered in the elder's office. Everyone except the elder brother, who had lost both his wife and daughter. On the way home, Soma broke down in his carriage, overwhelmed with guilt for not foreseeing the landslide in the other half of his kingdom while he had been focused on solving the food shortage crisis. Luckily for Soma, he has some busty maidens to depend on in case of emotional distress. Juna asks Loverboy to lie down while she pats him on his head and treats him to a sweet ASMR session. After the latter falls asleep, Juna pats some more and sings a night-night song to send him to dreamland. Meanwhile, in other parts of the kingdom, the three dukes of Elfrieden gathered to discuss whether they should rebel or give this young man a chance. Duchess Walter asks why Lord Carmen is not willing to give Soma the benefit of the doubt for being a good ruler, as the young lad has many good decisions for the betterment of the kingdom, a kingdom that Carmen deeply cares for. The Lion Duke answered that this outsider came from an entirely different world and wasted no time in changing the system and hierarchy of the kingdom while disregarding the long-lived tradition they held for centuries. Adding if he saw fit, the new king would not hesitate to get rid of them for his end goals. Furthermore, when asked if he wanted to take the throne after the hero king was gone, Duke Carmen replied that he would have the previous king take on the crown once again, and he would serve under him as they used to. Meanwhile, at the Amadonia Kingdom, the king and his son receive a message that Lord Carmen will finally make a move against the new king. As a result, he plans to send reinforcements to King Soma while pretending to remain on the duke's sidelines, ensuring that all parties involved in the civil war will come crashing down. Soma recalls the words of a book he read about royals and how to rule. Call it a guide to conquering medieval Europe, one that Soma will put to the test moving forward to protect his new family. Likewise, Gaius Amadonia plans to march on the Elfrieden Kingdom's border and take back a city they took 100 years ago. Everyone is on board, except for the Treasury Minister, who urges against taking any military action, warning that their own people could starve, as they too are struggling with food shortage. Not to mention, attacking another kingdom would be seen as a direct violation of the peace treaty established by the Empire. Upon hearing this unwelcome defiance of his will, Gaius considers slaying his minister. But fortunately, Prince Julius steps in, explaining that there will be no diplomatic issues with the Empire regarding the invasion, since the Elfrieden Kingdom did not sign the treaty as they did. In other words, war is okay, as long as it's with Elfrieden.
As of this moment, you are removed from your position as finance minister.
Yup, and just like that, another brother loses his job. Luckily, the poor lad has the princess on his side. She approaches the jobless man to let him know that they are leaving town before shit hits the fan. Back with the home team, Soma meets with the three dukes. To put it short, Soma tells them to either come to his side or be declared a traitor. The king doesn't intend to take control of their land, even though it's technically his. Soma just wants to unite the military forces under his command and show they stand as one to deter any foreign invasion. However, the Dragon Boy doesn't agree with such a decision as the system was made to be tyrant-proof. Still, Soma with his bland face argues the system was good during times of peace, but now it's a time of war. The kingdom has to stand as one entity or risk falling one by one like domino pieces. After hearing all these points, and making sure her city will stay relevant after the construction of the new harbor city, Duchess XL Walter switches sides and joins the Hero King. This leaves the Dragon Boy, who was waiting for a valid reason why the previous king advocated the throne for our boy, to which the main man made this unnecessary sad boy look, just to say, I don't know. Understandably, Castor Vargas decides to stick with his homeboy, Duke Carmen, as what we just saw was pure cringe. Speaking about Carmen, since he was the head behind this rebellion, there was no point in talking him out of the idea, yet Soma had to speak his piece and look cool just for the sake of it. Speaking of being cool, Lycia tried to present herself as a well-written heroine by showing her resolve to stand by her king, going so far as to cut her ponytail. It's also revealed that Juna had been acting as Walter's spy, sent to determine whether the new king was a worthy man or not. After that instance, the trumpet of war was blown. Amadonia entered the kingdom's domain and now is facing the city their ancestors lost. A nobleman bowed under Gaius's feet, begging for mercy and promising to open the gates to let the Amadonia army through with little to no fight. The cowardly nobleman just asked for a little bit of time to sway the public opinion, as some factions are opposing the idea of letting a foreign army in. Julius advises his father it would be best if they gave the guy some time to convince the people that surrendering would be the best course. That way Amadonia doesn't lose a single man or arrow. It is extra beneficial considering it would take a long period to seize such a big fortress. Therefore, Gaius agrees to the nobleman's demand, promising the safety of the citizens, but not the nobleman, as Gaius plans to hang him in front of the gate. Understandable behavior, to be honest. No one can trust a rat. Meanwhile, at the heart of the Elfrieden kingdom, the Forbidden Army made a castle overnight and immobilized it after the command of their king. The overnight fort proved to be an ingenious idea, as it diverted the attention from the capital to it. Inside the fort was Halbert, Foxia, the dark elf who came to offer help to Hal after learning his daughter was saved by him. Also, Ludwin was there. He stormed out of the fort with his men to destroy a couple of cannons, and only cannons. Harming the soldiers was not an option. The news of the cannon destruction didn't disturb the calmness of Lord Carmen, but what did was the nagging of the corrupt noblemen who joined his cause against the king. It was their idea to brute force the fort with cannons, which they are down 3 now. It was a foolish decision, as they didn't even learn if Soma was in the fort or not. Assessing the situation, Carmen decides to use the people in the fort as bait to lure Soma out. His plan will be set in motion with the next sunrise. Back with Amadonia's situation, Gaius started losing patience and was about to attack, but then stopped once he heard war cries coming from behind the castle walls. The noblemen came running like before, begging for more time. Julius noted that a battle with men willing to defend their homes to the death would be far from easy. Combine that with the bags of gold the former presented, the nobleman had successfully bought himself more time to sway the public into giving up, or so he made them believe. In reality, the man was working under Duchess Walter's command. She had him running in and out to buy time for Soma to arrive with reinforcement. Of course, this plan was conceived mainly by Soma. He was the one who told Walter to go and chill in the city. Likewise, Duke Castor Vargas was chilling in his city with his mind somewhat at ease after having evacuated the citizens from the area. While talking to his trusty advisor, Castor finds it odd that Soma hasn't shown up yet. He questions if the king will come after him first, or if he will ignore him, as Castor refuses to stand shoulder to shoulder with corrupt noblemen. That said, he is more than delighted to go down swinging with Carmen, as the Lion Man has been his friend for centuries now. One thing to note, indeed Castor knows he's fighting a losing war, and that Soma is the real deal. Serving under him would have been great for the country, but at this point, with all that has happened, going back on his choices are not an option. Soon after the reflecting time, Castor's daughter Carla barges into the room to inform the Duke that they have spotted the enemy. "How many?" Castor asked. Carla replied, "Only one. They brought a ship." Apparently the kingdom had one battleship, and since they had no beef with Duchess, who was controlling the navy, Soma decided to put wheels onto it and let big beasts push it forward to open the castle. Using a gem broadcast, Soma asks for them to stand down, but the Duke refuses and sends his men to destroy the ship. After a fierce aerial battle, the Dragon Riders manage to stop the ship and storm it, only to find it empty. Yup, the home team has sneaked their way to the castle and is now standing face to face with the de facto Duke. Castor Vargas is not willing to go down so easily without a fight, so Aisha steps forth to face him. The battle was quite good, as the Duke matched Aisha's brute strength with his expertise, yet what led to his demise was the home team overnumbering him. Princess Lycia came from behind Soma's doll and used her magic to knock down the Duke. After some sentimental talk with the princess, who is like a daughter to Castro, Lycia places a slave collar on the defeated Duke. If he ever thinks of harming the king, it will tighten and eventually snap his neck. At that moment, Carla arrives to help her father and sees him on the ground. Lycia, her best friend, tells her to stand down, otherwise it might kill her father. Hence, she too surrenders and gets the collar put on her. With this battle won, the former right hand of Castro, became the new commander of the Air Force, serving as a part of the Forbidden Army, i.e. under Soma directly, and the main man didn't hesitate to use that power immediately. He orders for the aerial troops to be sent to the capital to help defend it. When the group arrives at the overnight fort with reinforcements, everyone is relieved as they are positive this battlefront has been won. Halbert and Soma engage in some friendly bickering over what is to be expected from a highly trained royal guard. Seeing this, Carla is astonished by this soldier's nonchalant behavior towards the king. Licia tells her, "This is Hal. He is one of us. We with Hal." Carla then stood there dumbfounded by how cool this new king was. Meanwhile, at Lord Carmen's office, the big man assesses the situation and realizes they have lost the civil war. However, the corrupt noblemen refuse to accept it, as losing would mean jail for life, or possibly execution. Thus, they suggest something that doesn't sit well with the Lion Man, using civilians as shields and hiding in the castle. Yeah, safe to say, shit didn't go right for those people after that. Initially, it was believed that the fort was located in the Elfrieden capital. However, it was actually constructed near the border of Lord Carmen's territory. This became clear when Soma ordered his men to not storm Carmen's castle to seize him, but instead to move towards the borders to intercept approaching the Amadonia army. Carmen realizes that battle has ended in his defeat and orders his right-arm man to put a collar on himself and send a message explaining that except for the nobleman's army, Lord Carmen takes full responsibility, as well as all the blame of his soldier actions. While planning to enjoy a glass of fine wine that Carmen has kept away for the day, Princess Licia will get married, the wolf boss enters with a message informing him to get his troops ready and follow Soma to battle Amadonia. Turns out Carmen was not rebelling because didn't like Soma. Actually, he was quite impressed by him. The rebellion was organized by Duke Carmen, so he could gather all the corrupt noblemen under his banner for Soma, to later stamp them out with one swoop. That was the secret Papa Magna shared the other day with His Majesty. No matter how much Soma disliked the idea and how much he wished for another trajectory, there was no other path but this. Carmen's plan was too deep. Not only it was supposed to snuff out the nobleman network, but also destroy it and bring back the money stolen from the kingdom by making the noblemen pull most, if not all, their rescuers to hire mercenaries from another nation in promises of winning the war. Then these mercenaries who will end up in jail can be used for ransom money. Now that everything is out in the open, we move back to Gaius Amadonia and his army. XL Walter made her way to the city walls and cast a spell to showcase Soma with his new drip for the masses. King Soma declared war on the kingdom of Amadonia in response to their hostile actions on Elfrieden land. Hearing this, Gaius orders his men to retreat hastily to the nearest Amadonian city. Hakuya already perceived this route and set traps all over the place, as well as ambushed Gaius in a valley, reducing the soldiers' number greatly. And to add the cherry on top, when they did manage to get back to their city, Gaius was greeted by the Forbidden Army. Since the kingdom had yet to conquer the city, Gaius felt he still had a fighting chance. So he ordered his men to ride for battle head-on, with no tactics, no call-outs, just pure anarchy. Meanwhile, Soma ordered his men to meet Gaius on the battlefield according to a plan they had set before. With Elfrieden having more talented commanders, higher numbers, and far better tactics, it was obvious the tide of this battle was going their way. Therefore, Gaius orders his boy to leave the battlefield while he and his men fight. Gaius realizes this will not end until he is defeated, which he already is, making Julius's safety the most important mission. Otherwise, the royal Amadonia bloodline will end with him. Well, technically there was still Gaius's daughter, but according to him she doesn't care about the family's name. It is up to Julius to live on and rebuild. With that last request, Gaius marched towards the king's camp straight forward. Ludwin is shown to intersect the opposing king and kill him, only to find he is a fake. The real Gaius is currently fighting Carla with all his heart and might. Soma then went to help her with his puppet. After a distraction, Carla had an opening to hit Gaius with a flame attack, which makes one wonder why she didn't do it from far away. Anyways, Gaius survives the hit with sheer determination and willpower, yet will and power aren't enough to survive a barrage of arrows piercing his body. After Amadonia's king falls, Soma declares victory and demands that the soldiers stop fighting. The battle is over. At night, the Princess Roroa sheds a tear for her father after the news of his death reaches her. Now sitting on the former king's throne, Soma reveals he has been planning this counter-invasion for quite a while, along with Hakuya, who predicted the Amadonia army movement. Moving on, Poncho and Papa Magna report on the state of the army, the finances of this city, and other subjects. Magna suggests they can easily march further into Amadonia and take the rest of the cities, but Soma declines as he deduces no matter how much land they conquer in Amadonia, once the Empire shows up, it all will go up in flames. Due to the peace treaty put by the Empire, any change of borders using military force will not be recognized, and if the nation refuses to comply, that means it will become an enemy for the whole continent. Lycia is confused since Amadonia attacked first and makes it fair game, but as Soma points out, the Elfrieden kingdom is still not a part of the treaty, so they will most likely side with Amadonia. In other words, from this point on, it's all about the good old boring diplomacy. Soma's first diplomatic move was to establish a broadcast of multiple routines to make the people of the city they conquered feel more at ease, to show them that Elfrieden meant no harm. Also, it shows indirectly that they are a kingdom of the people, by the people, for the people. The Empire learns about this event and decides to go and check this summoned hero king out. Worthy to note, the Empress is a good person who seeks the best for all races. In a sense, she is an idealist, while her sister, the general of the army, is more rooted in reality, knowing some sacrifices must be made. In this case, Julius must be punished, but not before returning the land of Amadonia to him, whether he was on the right or the wrong side of the spectrum. Back in the captured city, Soma's workload only increased with the new responsibilities of a fresh domain that is also suffering from the same problems his kingdom was suffering from, and as such we follow the same route we did at the beginning of the series. Poncho finds a new type of food. The food shortage problem becomes better. Soma goes on the streets to check the town. He enters a shop where he runs into a character who will be returning later in the series. After the tour, Soma ends up on the heroine's lap, or in this case, his quote-unquote little sister ends up sleeping on his lap, only for the peaceful moment to be cut with a female. Not Aisha this time, but Jean Euphoria, the army general of the Chaos Empire. Jean assures the couple she isn't looking for any trouble and that she only came to check the city and how it's doing, introduce herself, and deliver a message that Julius will be coming to claim back the city. Hence, negotiations will be taking place in the near future. The season ends with Soma handing out gifts for his harem. Aisha got a gift, Lycia got a gift, and Juna got one back in the town along with Tomoe, from the shop they were in earlier. And just like that, the series ends on a high note. Thank you for watching.